The hijack hostages talk about their ordeal. America demands action against the hijackers. Ken Barrington, one of England's great cricketers, is dead. And in the West Indies, the two teams pay him a silent tribute. Why a Home Office minister went to meet the Sikhs of Slough. Good evening. The Americans, among 100 hostages held in the world's longest plane hijacking, have told of their ordeal. One of the Americans, Mr. Craig Clymore, said that when the Pakistani plane first landed at Kabul in Afghanistan, the gunmen were given extra weapons. He said they had automatics, time bombs and grenades. When we landed at Kabul, they brought on machine guns. Mr. Clymore said that the one man to die in the hijacking, a Pakistani diplomat, was shot right in front of him. Mr. Clymore, it's been disclosed, faces charges in the United States for alleged heroin smuggling, and another American could be travelling on a false passport. Pakistan's leader, General Zia, who agreed to the release of the 54 political prisoners to end the hijack, said there'll now be a crackdown on extremists in his country. America has demanded that Syria should take legal action against the hijackers. The three gunmen, who had held the passengers captive for 13 days, emerged brandishing their guns and waving victory signs. They surrendered their weapons to officials, but were still defiant as they were driven away. Then the hostages emerged from the plane, looking exhausted after their ordeal. They were each given flowers by Pakistani airline officials. Among the freed hostages was a woman. It had been thought that all the women on board had been released earlier. And then came the captain, his tears of relief wiped away by a colleague. The hostages, by now jubilant, were taken to waiting buses. Two hostages explained how they were treated and how they felt.
Fairly well.
Were you kept informed of what was going on?
Yes.
Felt great. They treated us really good, gave us food. What did we? Oh, great.
Ken Barrington, one of England's great post-war cricketers, has died of a heart attack in Bridgetown, Barbados. Barrington, who was 50, was assistant manager with the England touring team. He first played for England in 1955 and won 82 caps. His highest test score was 256 against Australia at Old Trafford in 1964. He retired from the game after a heart attack in 1968.
But the decision was to play on because Ken Barrington would have wanted it that way. Organising practice and helping players improve their technique was his main concern, and on any other day he'd have been in the nets with them. Alec Bedser, his Surrey and England colleague, mirrored the shock throughout the cricket world. Before play began today, players of both teams paid a silent tribute to the man known affectionately as the Colonel.
A dearly loved character within the world of cricket as a whole. You know, in any of the major cricketing countries, Kenny was well known and well loved and well respected. He had a boyish enthusiasm for the game, which anyone following this difficult tour could not have failed to see. And even yesterday he bowled energetically in the nets yesterday morning, as he did every morning, and he loved his job, and he saw this tour as one in which he could make a positive contribution by helping some of our younger cricketers to develop. It might not be easy to win test matches, but I know he'd set his heart upon having the players go back better cricketers than perhaps they came out here. But wholly involved with the game, an absolutely super chap, and we're all desperately sorry, and the game is much the poorer.
Tribute to Ken Barrington, who died today. Spanish health officials say the Tropicana Hotel in Benidorm, where there's been a scare over Legionnaire's disease, will take steps to improve its hygiene. They've already given the hotel a clean bill of health and say that only one of the 3 people who died after holidays there had the disease. The Spaniards say reports in Britain have been alarmist.
It would, say the Spanish, never have happened but for the Rio Park. That's the hotel where only last summer 1 guest died and 27 others were taken ill with Legionnaire's disease. That, they say, led almost everyone to the wrong conclusion this time. The clean bill of health they've now given the Tropicana Hotel nearby came too late for some of the Britons staying there. Given the choice of moving or staying, these people were moving. There was no panic. Indeed, the majority chose to stay. For some, the holiday was ending with a visit to the Benidorm clinic for x-rays and blood tests paid for by the tour company. But they'd already made their minds up about going home.
Yeah, we're leaving tonight. We should be leaving Monday, but we're leaving tonight because my wife suffers from asthma, and they say anyone that's got an illness or anything,
chest is a bit
bad
weak or
chest is in
anything.
danger.
Others were phlegmatic about it all.
Aren't you a little bit concerned?
No, not at all. So it's obvious if we've been here 12 days, if we've caught something, we've got it.
There's no doubt that one of the Britons who died in the hotel was not a victim of Legionnaire's disease. His death certificate points to malnutrition and dehydration. The rooms at the Tropicana are, by and large, clean and tidy enough, but the disease is most easily caught through water, and some of the bathrooms are well below standard. A disgrace, in the words of one Benidorm town councillor. Health inspectors admit, furthermore, that they haven't been putting extra chlorine in the water, as they said they would after the outbreak at the Rio Park last year. Right now, the Spanish feel they're victims of British overreaction. The fact is that the best way to protect their tourist industry is to maintain the standards they set themselves. David Smith, ITN, Benidorm, Spain.
The French clown Coluche, who had planned to contest next month's presidential elections, has decided not to run. Coluche, who opinion polls predicted would get up to 10% of the vote, said he was disgusted with the political system and had received threats against his life. But it's also possible that he failed to get the backing of 500 elected officials needed to become a candidate. The American Vice President, Mr. George Bush, and his wife have been to Atlanta in Georgia, the city haunted by the unsolved murders of 20 black children. The visit reinforced President Reagan's announcement of $1.5 million of federal aid for investigations. Mrs. Bush had a private meeting with the families of 6 of the dead and afterwards said, "We cried a little." And Mr. Bush?
This series of events has kind of traumatized the community in what we feel is an unprecedented way. And it's a matter of, becomes a matter of national concern.
The Vice President went on to tour the headquarters of the Special Police Task Force investigating the murders and learned that yet another black child is now missing. The 20 confirmed murders brought thousands of black New Yorkers onto the streets of Harlem this weekend for a candlelit march and vigil, a show of support for the black families of Atlanta. Home again. Liverpool Dockers have voted to reject special redundancy payments which could have given them golden handshakes of up to £16,000. The special payments are only being offered at Liverpool and London as a way of cutting jobs.
The Dockers' vote against the redundancy payments means a crisis for the Mersey Dock Company, which, until it was bailed out by the government last week, was close to bankruptcy and near to calling in the receiver. Last year, the Dock Company paid out £3 million in wages to dockers who were sent home every day because there was no work for them. Under a national agreement, the dockers cannot be forced to take redundancy, and in a city with one of the highest unemployment rates in the country, it seems unlikely that many dockers would want to leave the security of the port.
We feel, and the men feel, as in the past has always been so, that all registered dock workers are treated equally, that the other port should have the same opportunity on the voluntary severance, which is voluntary, as the same as Liverpool.
Well, I'm convinced we will get the redundancies because the steward's decision this morning, the other decision they made, was not to stop any man applying for severance. Now, the response, I believe, will be very good, and therefore I'm sure we will get our target numbers.
Mr. Tony Benn has said he wants a future Labour government to get out of the common market within 24 hours of being elected. The Conservative MP for Leominster, Mr. Peter Temple-Morris, says he will be voting against the government in the budget debate unless the Chancellor cuts the 20p increase on petrol. A Home Office Minister, Mr. Timothy Raisin, has been to a Sikh temple in Slough to give assurances about the nationality bill now going through Parliament. The Sikhs, like other ethnic groups, are worried about the bill.
A token demonstration met the Minister on his arrival. Local leaders of Britain's 750,000 Sikhs want the nationality bill explained to them and had asked Mr. Raisin to come to Slough to talk to them. The minister's shoes came off first as a mark of respect, and then his head covered with a handkerchief before entering the temple. Mr. Raisin told the congregation that the bill wouldn't mean a change in their status, though reaction to his words was mixed.
Now, I, of course, don't know the status of everybody in this room, but I would expect that very many people in this room are what we call settled here. They haven't acquired our citizenship, but they have the right to be here. Well, it's not only the case that this bill does nothing at all to take away the right to be here from these people, but it is also true that those who are settled here without having our citizenship can still pass on citizenship to their children when they are born in this country.
Do all of you still think it's a racialist bill?
Well, it is. It is. I wouldn't put that word in it. It is. I would say. Well, we think there are a lot of areas they can be seen and can be corrected.
Finally, back to cricket. The West Indies in their second innings are 245 for 5.
As if to add insult to injury, England had to watch Colin Croft, the night watchman, make his highest test score of 33. It was a pretty dispirited England performance, and the atmosphere, not surprisingly, had gone. Botham briefly aroused hopes of a breakthrough when he trapped Haynes in mid-flight. The pavilion's that way, sir. But Graham Dilley's bowling in particular was offline, and Richards simply helped himself. Meanwhile, Botham had damaged his finger and had to hand over the captaincy to Boycott. An interesting piece of diplomacy, and the Yorkshireman milked it for all it was worth. It had been a sorrowful day, so why not have some fun? It was just the tonic the crowd and the players needed. But there wasn't much more joy for England as Richards took the game further and further out of their reach. Nothing now can surely stop England going 2 down in the series. Tony Francis, ITN Sport, Barbados.
Never mind, they'll come back with a suntan if nothing else. That's it from us this weekend. Do join ITN tomorrow. Have a good week.